So with us, I'll bringing you some of the information that you need to know right here on the program. Let's begin with the situation in Bauchi State with the governor there. Mr. Bala Mohammed was tested positive to the novel coronavirus. The governor had gone into self-isolation on Monday after admitting he had contact with the son of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar on a flight from Lagos to Abuja. The senior special assistant to the governor of media, Mukhtar Gidado, said in a statement that the governor was tested alongside his family and aides that accompanied him to the trip in Lagos. The statement adds that of the 6 initial tests carried out, 1 sample was confirmed, and it turned out to be that of the governor. Is still in quarantine and being attended to by officials of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC. Let's get into some of the other stories that we have for you. Tonight, we're looking at the implications of the coronavirus and how it has affected or is affecting governors in Nigeria. Well, summarily, coronavirus has shut down arms of government, perhaps a large part of governance in the country, because all arms of government have now been forced to take some kind of holiday. First, the chief Justice of Nigeria has directed all heads of courts to suspend all court sittings for an initial period of 2 weeks. The Senate has also adjourned plenary till April the 7th. This comes after the executive arm of government suspended the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting indefinitely. But more worries tonight is a cloud over the status of the Chief of Staff to the President, who is reported to have tested positive for coronavirus. No one has, however, given an official confirmation or explanation, but earlier today, members of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 visited the presidential villa amidst unconfirmed reports of the Chief of Staff to the President, Abba Kyari, testing positive to the coronavirus. The team was at the office of the Chief of Staff. They were led by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, who declined to answer questions on the status of the Chief of Staff to the President on their way out. None of the members would also confirm if there will be a briefing in respect of the 2 cases. However, multiple sources within the villa speculate that indeed the Chief of Staff tested positive to the coronavirus. So 2 major officials of government. One, the governor of Bauchi State, was come out in an official statement from the government of that state that Governor Bala Mohammed tested positive. Out of the 6 tests that have been conducted on him, 1 of the samples came out to be positive for coronavirus. Official one there from the governor of Bauchi State. But the one that there's a bit of a cloud is the Chief of Staff to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Mr. Abba Kyari. There are speculations that he may have tested positive for coronavirus, but still some of the we don't have official statement coming from the presidency on that. And the briefing, which has become somewhat a daily occurrence, the event in the presidential in Abuja has not held today, and reasons are not yet given. So then, let's make a sense of what this means, the implication of the coronavirus, and how it has affected governance and also the efforts for the government in curtailing the spread. I have joining me tonight a former member of the House of Representatives, Honorable Peter Ede, in our Abuja studio, and here in Lagos is a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Mr. Monday Ubani, who is also a former 2nd Vice President of the Nigerian Bar Association. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. Let me perhaps begin with the Honorable. It does look like there seems to be a shutdown of governance in the country. This coronavirus has impacted our lives so badly, such that government has had to shut in the courts and also in the National Assembly. Now it's affecting some part of the executive arm of government. There seems to be some worries in those quarters. What are your biggest fears tonight, Honorable Ede?
Well, Shegu, before I answer your question, let me say to all Nigerians that these are difficult times and that I do pray for all of us and wish us the best. And want to also say that we have to pull together as a nation, put aside partisan differences, and listen to our professionals in the hope that they will come up with solutions to the problem. Now, back to your question. You asked about the implications of the partial shutdowns in the different sectors of governance. I think the implications are grave, really, because by the time you hear the Chief Justice of the Federation asking heads of courts to defer or suspend court sittings for 2 weeks, and then you hear that the Senate President announced that the National Assembly would go on recess for 2 weeks, and then you also hear that the Federal Executive Council has put their meetings on hold for the foreseeable future. It tells you that there is really a problem. Now, the Senate President assured that if there's an emergency, he will reconvene the National Assembly for the purpose of attending to such emergencies. But then we know very well that normally members of the National Assembly are supposed to sit from Tuesday to Thursday every week. So if you further remove these 3 days from their legislative calendar, what it means is that if a proper emergency comes up, it will take some time for them to reconvene, and valuable time may be lost in the process. Also, you will see that what we are practicing now, it's unfortunate, but it's what I would call corona control federalism. Because you see each governor making his own decisions, each state making their own decisions, whereas there is apparently no central command that is as effective and active as the command centers are in the states. There's a presidential team that is handling the matter, but if you look at what other countries are doing, in the UK, the Prime Minister addresses the nation every evening. In the US, it's the same. In our own case, I've been monitoring your station all day long, and even the SGF, who is the head of the Nigerian team, had to postpone his press briefing today. Later on, the Minister of Health was supposed to have a briefing. He also postponed his own. So the times are dire.
Okay.
And I think it's everything that's happening is affecting governance seriously.
All right. Let's bring Mr. Obani in. Mr. Obani, for what we understand, the report about the status of the chief of staff, the governor in Bauchi State came out that he's tested positive for coronavirus. What do you make of what is happening as regarding in the presidency, the chief of staff, and the fact that we're still perhaps left in the dark? The press conference that is supposed to hold is not held. The handling of things generally and the approach. What is your take?
Sharon, thank you for having me. I think that the best international best practices is full disclosure. And I want to really appreciate the step taken by the present governor of Bauchi when he went on self-isolation. That was brought to the notice of the public. When he was also tested positive, Nigerians and the citizens of Bauchi were made aware of the health status of the governor. To me, that is clearly kudos. That is the way for us to go. And I want to say this. For the fact that somebody tests positive with regards to this particular ailment does not in any way mean death sentence. We've seen what have happened in other nations, like in Canada. I understand that the Prime Minister's wife was tested positive and she went on self-isolation. Same with the woman in Germany, the Chancellor. She has also gone on self-isolation. So I think that the best thing for us to do at this juncture is to put knowledge, make knowledge available concerning the status of the health of public officials, and then encourage Nigerians on the measures and ways to avoid spreading this particular virus. Mitigation is key. And that's why you see all the governors are taking proactive measures. Because the nations in Europe did not initially, consider this particular sickness, as something that will bring us to the place where we are presently, and that's why most of them are suffering what they are suffering presently. For us in Africa, where we have no facilities and structure in place, the best measure is this proactive measure of probably having a lockdown, partial lockdown, and probably at the end, total lockdown. We could have to watch event and then make pronouncement as to events progress. So I think the best practice is for us to know any person's health status at every point in time. Disclosure is key. Non-disclosure is very big error for any government at this time.
We'll take a break, but when we come back, you and Honorable Ede will be breaking it down for Nigerians to understand how far we have come, what we need to do as a people, and especially those who are in government and who are leaders of the country, so that we can move forward. There seems to be some incident at the National Assembly. Our correspondent who covered there, Terry Ikumi, at some point in the break will give us update on that, what he covered earlier today. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to analyze some of these issues for you. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation. Before I get my panel tonight talking, Mr. Monday Ubani, former second vice president of the NBA, and Honorable Ede, a former member of the House of Representatives. Let's give you some not good news coming from the National Assembly. Of course, it was sad that the death of Senator Rose Oko was received, who was a chairperson of the Senate Committee on Trade and Investment. Senator Oko, who represented Cross River North Senatorial District at the Senate, died on Monday at a medical facility in the United Kingdom where she was receiving treatment. On the floor of the Senate today, she was that was raised also, and the Senate President condoled with the people and government of Cross River over the loss. Let's get back to the conversation on how coronavirus is impacting our lives here in Nigeria, how the government is handling it, and some of the update that we're getting is about 42 the case that we have had on our hands in Nigeria as of this hour. Honorable Ede and Mr. Monday Ubani has been talking to me on this one, what the government is doing and the leaders in the manner in which it's been handled. Apologies that I had to cut in before we went on that break. But holistically speaking, how are you impressed so far with the manner in which the government is handling situation in curtailing the spread?
Yeah, I must say straight away that I'm impressed with the steps that have been taken so far by the Lagos State governor or government. Virtually every day, Lagosians are being briefed and being given an up-to-date report of the happenings in Lagos, and he has been proactive. Remember that it was the state government, the first state government, to actually ask the churches and some other faith-based organizations to actually accommodate only 50 members or less in any of their gatherings. And that was done on Sunday. And now they are taking more proactive measures in asking the marketplaces to be shut down. Because, you see, the spread is the issue. Because if this thing becomes, a scourge, with the massive infection of people that are in Nigeria without the adequate corresponding facilities to actually take them at a time, you are in trouble. The big nations with all their technological know-how, science and tech are really in big crisis. In Italy, in Spain, they are saying,
Germany,
please, the
Iran,
best thing for you at this point in time, you stay at home.
I mean,
I'm talking about these big nations,
It's also instructive. In one of the part of the statement from the government of Bauchi said, the governor was telling everyone that he has had contact with at the moment that he got to know and went into self-isolation,
Yes.
is asking them to come out to test. Who do you think, because you were mentioning in the case of Mr. Abba Kyari, the chief
Yes.
of staff to the president, and you are talking about full disclosure
That's
of
right.
what is
That's
happening.
right. That's right.
What is the implication? Because the federal government is saying that people are not, 2 days ago, they said, look, people are not helping
Yeah.
by not disclosing.
Yeah, and people are saying even the statistics we have so far, people are faulting it. People are faulting it, So it is important that this full disclosure is actually the best way to tackle this crisis. I'm so impressed with a young man that it was reported in Benue, under 17, that had issue that he suspected was the sickness. And he went to the hospital, but it was eventually found out that he was negative. So that is the kind of attitude we should develop with this sickness. It's not a sickness that sentences anyone to death. So this issue of full disclosure, coming up in order to save the life of your family, save the life of your neighbor, save the life of Nigerians is very critical. Because immediately it is found out, the experts will give you the necessary medicine that public can, a lot of people have recovered. In fact, almost 80%.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because over 300,000 cases around the globe,
Yes.
over 100,000 recovery
rate.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
So, that means that if people are recovering...
It's not AIDS. It's not AIDS. It's something that is curable. So don't in any way hide. Because the moment you are hiding and you are infecting more people, you are creating, and you are creating the crisis. And that is what this government is trying to avoid. Yeah. Because we don't have the facilities. Because if eventually becomes so massive and
management of information is another thing. Let me bring Honorable Ede back. Honorable Ede, from the kind of situation we find ourselves in relation to the case of the chief of staff, what do you make of it? The manner in which, for example, the American president, when the contact that he's had, speculation, and he said he's gone for tests and he came out negative. In this kind of sense, someone who is very close to the president, what do you think the kind of communication that should have come out of the presidency?
I'll come to that, Shegu. But first of all, let me say that I disagree a little bit with Mr. Bani on the initial handling of the situation. I think we started out late. The moment the Italian came into Nigeria and tested positive, that was when we were supposed to start acting. We were supposed to shut down our airports to people coming from outside the country, or at best, or at most, at least screen them or quarantine them for some time to be sure. But our airports remained open for a long time, thereby allowing other cases to come. If you look at the initial 23 cases that took place, 20 of them were people who came from outside. It was thereafter that community infection started taking place and people started passing it on to other people. I believe if we had not believed some of the things that we're seeing on social media, which we have mere fallacies, we would have been better than where we are now. For instance, when this thing started, there was this impression that it cannot affect an African, it cannot affect a black man. The initial 2 deaths happened in Egypt and Morocco, and we said, oh, it's because they're close to Europe, they are white people essentially, and for the black African, there is no threat. We believed these things for too long, until this Italian came in, and his contacts also picked this up, and luckily he was eventually cured and discharged.
Honorable, because we're out of time, I would like you, just in 20 seconds, because I would like to take also in 20 seconds, Mr. Obani, that of the chief of staff, the communication, and what do you think is perhaps the best standard practice?
On the issue of the chief of staff, we haven't yet received official communication from the presidency on the true situation. Everything now is still in the realm of guesswork. The presidency hasn't told us whether the chief of staff actually tested positive or not. So until we hear that communication, we will not be sure where we are, but I hope it's not true. But if it is true, I think Nigerians should be told and action should commence to isolate him from the president so that the president doesn't get infected as well.
Mr. Obani, just in 20 seconds, your closing thoughts.
For me, the best practice for this government is actually either denial or to confirm. Keeping silent will give room for rumor mongering. In fact, even the rumor went further to say that he's been transported to Lagos now for treatment. So the moment government ceases communication with the people, what comes in is that people will now begin, the rumor mill become very active. And that is not too good for the government of the day. So I think they should come up either denying it or confirming it. And when you confirm it, what are the measures we have been taking and all that? Because for now, we now know somebody in government that has it.
All right.
And it's very important for that knowledge.
The sources in government
Yes,
say that
yeah.
the man has perhaps tested positive for it. We hope that the president will come out with an official statement. But I must sincerely thank you both for coming tonight. Mr. Monde Ubani, former second vice president of the NBA, and Honorable Ede, former member of the House of Representatives. Thank you so much for your thought tonight. But before we go, do know that Channel Television is on top of some of the information that are coming in, and we have created a new program. On our programming note, Channel Television has commenced a special COVID-19 update program. It's a 30-minute daily update at noon, 6 p.m., and a 45-minute update at 9 p.m. on the coronavirus pandemic in Nigeria and across the world. This will be showing on all our platforms and will also be streamed live to our global viewers. That's where we draw the curtain on the program tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm Sean Akimale. Bye for now.